COINTELPRO, how the FBI tried to destroy dissent. They weren't fighting crime, they were fighting change. From 1956 to 1971, the Federal Bureau of Investigation ran a covert operation not against gangsters or spies, but against voices. Civil rights leaders, anti-war protesters, indigenous activists, black revolutionaries. Anyone who questioned the system, anyone who dared to challenge the status quo or illuminate injustice. The weapon? COINTELPRO. The enemy? Anyone who dared speak. This was not about public safety, it was about power preservation. A silent war, waged in the shadows, aimed at silencing dissent through intimidation, manipulation, and fear. Inside the program. COINTELPRO, short for Counterintelligence Program, created by FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover in the thick of the Cold War. Its original target was the Communist Party USA, seen as a potential fifth column. But paranoia metastasized. Soon, any movement hinting at radical reform was branded subversive. The list expanded rapidly. Civil rights groups demanding equal protection, black nationalists calling for self-determination, anti-war coalitions protesting American imperialism, indigenous movements seeking sovereignty, feminist and LGBTQ organizers advocating for dignity. These were not violent insurgents, they were citizens exercising constitutional rights, but COINTELPRO treated them as internal enemies. Tactics weren't limited to surveillance, they included infiltrating peaceful organizations with undercover agents, tapping phones without court orders, breaking into homes and offices to steal documents, framing individuals with trumped-up charges, spreading false information to discredit leaders. This wasn't justice. It was state-sponsored sabotage, democracy subverted from within. Who they targeted. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was under constant surveillance. Agents bugged his hotel rooms, recorded private conversations, compiled dossiers. They mailed him an anonymous letter suggesting suicide as the only escape from public disgrace. The intent was psychological destruction, to shatter the man before he could inspire a movement. The Black Panther Party was painted as a domestic terror group by media outlets fed FBI disinformation. Yet their breakfast programs fed thousands of hungry children. Their free health clinics served the uninsured. Their education initiatives taught self-respect and black history. Fred Hampton, the charismatic 21-year-old chairman of the Illinois chapter, was one of their most effective voices. He was marked as a threat. In December 1969, he was drugged and shot to death in his bed during a raid coordinated with the FBI. His partner, 8 months pregnant, survived. Other targets included Vietnam War protest organizers like Students for a Democratic Society, the American Indian Movement, AIM, which occupied Alcatraz and Wounded Knee, feminist leaders pushing for the Equal Rights Amendment, LGBTQ activists organizing post-Stonewall. Their crime? Organizing, speaking, imagining a better world, and daring to act. The tactics used. COINTELPRO wasn't just about watching, it was about breaking. Anonymous letters warned activists that their partners were informants. Trusted comrades were exposed or framed as traitors. Fake press releases announced events that never happened. Agents incited violence between allied groups. Families were threatened with arrest. Employers were contacted with slander. Lives were dismantled, one rumor at a time. The goal wasn't arrest. It was chaos, paralysis, isolation. The media, complicit or unwitting, amplified falsehoods. Editorials denounced radicals. Anchors parroted lies. This was psychological warfare, not law enforcement. It aimed to discredit entire movements by sowing mistrust from within, and it was paid for with public dollars under the banner of democracy. Exposure and fallout. In 1971, a group of 8 activists calling themselves the Citizens Commission to Investigate the FBI broke into a field office in Media, Pennsylvania. They acted on a hunch and uncovered a storm. Inside were documents marked COINTELPRO, evidence of domestic espionage on a massive scale. They sent the files to journalists and members of Congress. The public was stunned. Protests erupted. Demands for accountability echoed through the halls of power. Senator Frank Church led a congressional investigation. The Church Committee's findings were damning. The FBI had targeted not criminals, but citizens. Not threats, but critics. J. Edgar Hoover's carefully curated image as America's top cop collapsed under the weight of exposed truths. He had built a surveillance empire, unchecked by courts or conscience. But the revelations came too late. By then, movements were fractured. Leaders were jailed, exiled, or dead. A generation's momentum had been disrupted. The legacy of paranoia. COINTELPRO didn't just destroy people. It poisoned trust. It embedded paranoia in the DNA of activism. It taught future leaders that visibility meant vulnerability, that to rise up was to risk annihilation. The echoes still reverberate. Today, surveillance is digital. No need for break-ins when metadata reveals patterns, contacts, locations. Facial recognition maps marches. Social media scrapes speech. The tools evolved, but the logic endures. Disrupt, discredit, divide. We were told COINTELPRO ended in 1971, but its techniques found new hosts. Whistleblowers like Edward Snowden would later reveal massive surveillance dragnets. Protesters still face digital tracking. Black Lives Matter activists report being followed and watched. The shadow of COINTELPRO is cast long, visible in every protest drone, every phone tap, every whisper that justice must stay quiet. Sometimes the greatest threat to power isn't crime, it's hope. Because when surveillance is silent, so is resistance, until someone speaks. If truth was the enemy, what else have they buried? Subscribe to Past Redacted. Next time, the secret war in Laos, America's most bond but unspoken battlefield.